The rain hammered down on Arthur Vance's luxury sedan, drumming a relentless rhythm on the roof and windows, drowning out every other sound. He was stranded on a deserted road, miles from the city's warm lights, the world around him swallowed by darkness and water. The engine was dead, the dashboard dark, his empire of control reduced to nothing but shadows and silence. He tried his phone. No signal. Of course. Even technology had abandoned him tonight. Each passing car ignored him, headlights slicing through the gloom, their drivers oblivious to his silent plea for help, leaving him more invisible with every passing minute. Arthur, the powerful CEO, was just another man in trouble tonight, stripped of his influence and status by a simple twist of fate. He slammed his fist on the wheel, anger flaring, but it changed nothing. The storm outside raged on, indifferent to his frustration. The minutes dragged on, the rain relentless, each second stretching into eternity as he waited for a miracle that never came. He thought of his missed dinner, the broken promise to his wife, the investors waiting for him, and the reputation he'd worked so hard to build now hanging by a thread. Without his title, his office, or even a working car, he was helpless, just another soul at the mercy of the storm. The feeling was foreign and infuriating. He was used to commanding rooms, not begging the universe for mercy. He leaned back, eyes closed, dread creeping in, the weight of his failures pressing down on him as heavily as the rain. The world outside was cold and indifferent, the city's distant lights a reminder of how far he'd fallen in just one night. He was a king locked out of his castle, his kingdom miles away, powerless to reach it. He had planned for everything, except this. All his careful strategies meant nothing against the chaos of the storm. The silence of a dead phone, the humbling realization of his own vulnerability echoed in the empty car. Tonight, Arthur Vance was just another shadow in the storm, his identity washed away by the rain. And trouble, he realized, was a lonely place to be, especially when you're used to always being in control. A soft tapping startled Arthur. He peered through the rain. An older man in a tattered coat stood outside. Instinctively, Arthur checked the locks, suspicion rising. He cracked the window. "What do you want?" he snapped. The man's voice was gentle. "Your car's stopped. I might be able to help." Arthur scoffed. This man looked like he needed help himself. "No thank you, I have help coming." Arthur lied, eager to keep the stranger away. The man didn't move, just stood in the rain, sadness in his eyes. "It's the alternator," he said quietly. "The belt probably slipped in this rain. I have some tools." Arthur hesitated, then shut the window, dismissing him. The man lingered a moment, then turned and walked away, swallowed by the storm. Arthur felt a fleeting sense of victory. He'd kept control. But the man's quiet confidence about the alternator echoed in his mind. Was it a trick? Or did he really know? Arthur tried to shake off the doubt, but it lingered. The rain kept falling. The road stayed empty. And Arthur remained alone. Arthur watched the man disappear, convincing himself he'd done the right thing. But as the night dragged on, doubt grew. Unseen, the man, Samuel, circled back, keeping to the shadows. Under cover of darkness, Samuel approached the car, carrying a small bag of tools. He lifted the hood, working by feel, his hands skilled and sure. The alternator belt was loose, just as he'd guessed. Samuel tightened it, wiped away moisture, and closed the hood softly. He asked for nothing, expected nothing. It was a quiet act of service, a rebellion against a world that had taken so much from him. Samuel slipped away, vanishing into the night. Arthur, inside, remained unaware. The storm eased, but the lesson lingered in the air. Sometimes, help comes quietly, without recognition. And sometimes, the greatest kindness is the one you never see. The night passed, and the world turned. Arthur awoke to a gray dawn, stiff and cold. The rain had stopped, but the memory of the night lingered. On a whim, he turned the key. The engine roared to life. Disbelief washed over him. Cars didn't fix themselves. He checked under the hood. Everything looked untouched. Then, he remembered the man, the homeless stranger he'd dismissed. Could it have been him? The thought seemed absurd, yet possible. Gratitude and shame mingled inside him. He'd been rude, judgmental, and in return, received a silent act of kindness. There was no one to thank, no one to repay. The anonymity made it more powerful. Arthur felt a sting of humility. He, the great Arthur Vance, had been helped by someone he'd deemed worthless. The realization unsettled him deeply. He looked around, but the man was gone. The world was quiet, the lesson clear. Sometimes the most profound help comes from the most unexpected places, and sometimes gratitude has nowhere to go but inward. Back in his corporate world, Arthur tried to shake the memory of the night, but the man's face, the quiet offer of help, haunted him. He looked at the people around him, the barista, the janitor, with new eyes. Later, walking with his executives, Arthur spotted the man from The Storm, sitting on a park bench feeding pigeons. "Ugh, look at that," one executive sneered. "Why don't they just get a job?" The words stung Arthur. A week ago, he might have agreed. Now he felt a surge of defensiveness for the man. He wanted to speak up, to tell them the truth, but the words caught in his throat. Peer pressure and habit kept him silent. As they walked away, guilt gnawed at him. He'd been given a second chance to do the right thing, and failed. The image of the man on the bench stayed with him. Arthur realized he was still judging, still learning. The lesson wasn't over, and the shame was a heavy weight. Guilt followed Arthur back to his office, clinging to him like a shadow he couldn't shake. He couldn't focus, the executive's cruel words echoing in his mind, replaying every harsh syllable. The city lights outside blurred as he stared, lost in thought, weighed down by regret. Restless, he went to the security desk, searching for answers, asking about the man in the park who haunted his conscience. "Samuel," the guard said, his tone gentle. "He's been around for years, harmless, never asked for a thing." Arthur pressed for more, needing to understand. Samuel was once a master mechanic, respected in his trade, with a loving family and a thriving business. He lost everything caring for his sick wife, sacrificing his own dreams. Then, gave his last savings to help his troubled son, never hesitating to put others first. Now, he lived on the streets, fixing what he could for others, never complaining, always offering a helping hand to those in need. Each word hit Arthur hard, unraveling his assumptions and stirring something deep within him. Samuel wasn't a failure. He was a hero, a monument to sacrifice and love, a man who gave everything for those he cared about. Arthur felt a deep shame for his earlier judgment, realizing how blind he'd been to true greatness. The man he dismissed had lived a life of quiet greatness, his story hidden in plain sight. Arthur knew he had to find him, to make amends for his indifference. He had to make it right, to honor the life he'd overlooked. Sometimes, true success isn't measured in wealth, but in devotion, in the quiet sacrifices made for love. And sometimes, the people we overlook are the ones we should honor most. Arthur's priorities shifted, his heart opening to a new understanding. He left his office, determined to act, no longer content to stand by. This time, he wouldn't stay silent. He would do what was right, no matter the cost. Arthur wandered the park, his heart pounding with worry, desperate to find Samuel before the day slipped away. Every face he passed, every bench he checked, he hoped for a sign, a clue, anything that would lead him to the man he had wronged. On a weathered bench, Arthur spotted a note. Its edges curled, the ink slightly smudged. It read, "Sometimes the most broken things are not machines. They are hearts, but a little kindness is the only tool you need to help them run again. Be kind." The words echoed in his mind, striking him with a force he hadn't expected, making him pause and reflect on his own actions. Arthur searched until the sun began to set, finally finding Samuel near a shelter, sharing a thin blanket with another man in need. The sight humbled him deeply. Arthur approached, his pride gone. "I was the man in the car. I was wrong. Thank you for opening my eyes," he said, his voice trembling with sincerity. He extended his hand. Not as a CEO, not as someone above, but as a fellow human being seeking forgiveness and connection. Samuel took his hand, and in that quiet handshake, a deep understanding passed between them. One built on respect and newfound hope. That handshake was more than a gesture. It was a promise, a new beginning for both men. Arthur didn't just offer Samuel money, he gave him a real chance, an opportunity to rebuild his life with dignity. He helped Samuel find a modest apartment, provided him with new tools, and offered him a job managing the company's vehicles, restoring not just his livelihood, but his sense of purpose. Inspired by Samuel's quiet strength, Arthur started a foundation dedicated to helping the homeless, determined to make a lasting difference in the lives of others. He learned to look beyond appearances, to value character over status, and to recognize the hidden struggles in everyone he met. Arthur changed, and so did his world. The ripple of kindness spread, touching lives and transforming his city in ways he never imagined. The lesson was simple, yet profound. Kindness is the greatest tool of all, capable of mending what seems irreparably broken. And sometimes, with compassion and understanding, the most broken things can be made whole again, stronger than before. All it takes is a little grace, and the courage to reach out, even when it's hard.
What's something people don't know about stories? They never truly end. There's always a new adventure waiting for you. Just pick your next tale and I'll meet you there. Subscribe to the Story Circle and let me know which story I should tell next in the comments.